Hey guys, what's going on? James here. Breaking news out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization as Bucs offensive lineman Sua Opeta has torn his ACL in practice. I am joined today by the co-host of the Cannon Fire podcast, Mr. Evan Wanish. This was reported by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. We are looking at the article written by Gianna Lane of ESPN. Evan, not great news here.
No, certainly not great. Not great for Sua Opeta, and not great for the Buccaneers' depth. Along that offensive line, more specifically, the interior of the offensive line. Opeta was basically hopeful to compete for the starting left guard job. Now, I will say, I don't know if this changes the Bucs' plans significantly in terms of who they might think is the starter, because I know it's early in camp, but in the camp practices, Ben Bredesen, who they also signed this offseason, has been running with the ones pretty frequently. So it's probably still his job to lose, but Opeta was still probably going to compete. And he was a guy actually I was excited for. To be honest with you, I thought this was a guy that had some potential. He was playing behind a really talented Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, and I actually compared him to Shaq Barrett. Not saying that he was going to come in and be as good of a guard as Shaq Barrett was a pass rusher for the Buccaneers, but similar situations. Shaq Barrett was behind a loaded Denver pass rush, didn't really get a chance, came to the Buccaneers and really shined. I thought Opeta had the potential to maybe be that type of guy, that type of find, and unfortunately, we're not going to find out at least for this season.
Yeah, like you said, Opeta was a guy who was competing for that starting left guard spot opposite or with Ben Bredesen. He had started 10 games in his NFL career, six last year with the Eagles. Has played in 38 games in his career as well. And this is just a shame, you know. Me and you had talked about it before we did this video, and Opeta was running with the backups at this point. It seemed like Ben Bredesen was running with the starters pretty much exclusively. But obviously, this is still a blow to the depth of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And golly, Evan, it just seems like they can't catch any luck at the left guard position, huh?
No, they've been trying to solve that for a long time, and really since Ali Marpet retired, right? And they just have not been able to figure that one out. It has been a tough go of it, whether it's injuries, whether it's guys just not being productive, whatever it may be. Signing veterans that aren't productive, young guys that aren't productive. It seems to be every direction here. That the left guard spot is really the one spot along the offensive line that is still going to be a huge question mark for this team. I think you look at the Bucs offensive line, and all the spots are pretty much locked up except that left guard spot. So again, just like you said, they can't really catch a break with this left guard and can't really find it. Well, I say can't really find an answer. Maybe they do have their answer in Ben Bredesen, but a potential solution in Sua Opeta, or at least depth at that position as in Sua Opeta, is now gone for the season.
Yeah, you also consider that really in terms of and I do want to talk about potential replacements here at backup guard, right? Because Nick Leverett, he's with the Patriots now. Aaron Stinney's with the Giants. You do have some other names out there. I mean, Matt Filer's still a free agent.
Bring
Um,
him back.
yeah, well, there's a few other names that are out there as well. Like Try Turner of the Saints and some other kind of random ish names out there. What do you see the Bucs doing now? Do you see them going with also hey Zach Bailey, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, still out there? Do you see them going with guys that they have right now? Do you see them adding somebody? What do you think right now?
Right at the moment, I would think you're probably sticking with your guys, right? Now that being said, there may be an opportunity, at some point in the preseason, towards the end, maybe when you're getting down to final cuts, where a team cuts a guy that you might like and you pick him up. And this is even if Bredesen does impress, right? Let's say Bredesen impresses them and he's going to be the starter. I still think it'd be wise to pick up some cheap depth, right? So let's say a team is going to cut this guy, and instead of cutting him, the Bucs throw them a sixth round pick in 2026 or whatever. Something very small, but instead of cutting him, they get something for him, so the Bucs don't have to compete with other teams for him, something like that, right? So I don't think anything is imminent. I don't foresee anything happening soon. I think they're going to look at all their options that they have currently on the roster, see how that goes, and then we'll see. But I do think there's going to be the potential to add a piece towards the end of training camp right before the season.
Yeah, I think one important thing that's going to be worth paying attention to, like you said, is who gets cut, right? I agree with you where it's like you could easily see a a player who does get cut be brought into the Bucs. I mean, golly, Aaron Stinney, signed a veteran minimum with the Giants. He could get cut and come back to the Bucs. Same thing with a Nick Leverett as well. This isn't look, obviously I wish nothing but the best for Sua Opeta, right? I want to stress that. And it's a darn shame for a young promising player. But the Bucs I think will have options, Evan. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and they're gonna have options, you know. I mean, now whether they take those options or not, that remains to be seen. They don't have to, you know. They could feel good enough about their depth there, right? Robert Hainsey, who's probably going to be the backup center, right? Because you're assuming Graham Barton's going to be the starter. He has played guard in the past. If they really wanted to, in a pinch, they could probably slide Hainsey over to that guard spot if they really, really wanted to. There's a couple other guys on the roster that are intriguing. Obviously, Elijah Klein, who they drafted this past draft, so he's a guy that they really like, and they will have options. But that also doesn't mean that they're gonna necessarily pick up somebody, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
you look at the free agent list, words are hard. Free agent list right now, there's not a lot of names that are appealing on there, right? So that's why I sort of say I'd wait and see when these teams cut these guys. There's always a couple of veterans. You know, every single year there's a couple of veterans that do end up getting cut. Like you mentioned, a guy like Aaron Stinney, you know, what if he's, not long for the Giants, right? What if things don't go well? Could he possibly return? And again, there's a lot of veterans who might be let go. So there could be opportunity, I would think, later in a couple of weeks here that could maybe open up a little bit more space or opportunity for the Bucs to add someone. They will have their opportunities. They will have their chances of, I think, a lot of guys, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to get one.
Well, best of luck to Sua Opeta in his recovery. Again, wish him nothing but the best. He did sign a 1 year deal with the Bucs, so we'll see what the future holds for him. This is a big opportunity for Ben Bredesen now, right? It essentially is all but named him the starting left guard on this football team. And we'll see how he does going forward. I don't think he's necessarily looked bad. But he hasn't necessarily stood out either, and sometimes that's a good thing for an offensive, or I guess that is a good thing for an offensive lineman. So we'll see what happens. But guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Let us know your thoughts and opinions about this down in the comments section below. Go check out Evan's work over at the Cannon Fire podcast. He just did a show with Rock Riley recently, which was a lot of fun. Definitely go check that out. Also, go check out his written work over at MrBucsNation.com. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.